Sometimes a story announces itself before anyone speaks. That night, it was the microphone. We remember the first time Caroline Hayes described it, not the speech, not the crowd, just the black wireless mic resting on a small podium inside a private dining room at Savannah River Club. 26 relatives seated two straight. A sound system already on. Her 30th birthday printed on the place cards like decoration, not celebration. Caroline mattered because she wasn't reckless. She wasn't estranged. She was a daughter who did everything quietly, including leaving. This is where she begins. The microphone was already there when I walked in. Not leaning against a wall, not stored away. It was set up like someone had planned a presentation. My father doesn't do anything without planning. Caroline, my mother said when she saw me. Her smile stopped halfway. You look nice. Thank you. What's the announcement? Let's sit first. I noticed the seating. My chair was centered under the chandelier. My name card placed directly across from my father. Preston Beaumont sat 2 seats to my right, staring at his folded napkin like he was studying it. Happy birthday, he muttered. Thanks. The club manager adjusted the volume on the speaker. That's when my stomach dropped. My father stood before the first course was even served. He picked up the microphone like he'd done it before. We're here tonight for clarity, he began, calm, measured. The room didn't move. He continued, Caroline has chosen a path that no longer reflects the Hayes family. My chest tightened. She rejected a partnership that would have strengthened our business. She walked away from a stable position earning $92,000 a year. She's built something unstable instead, and she has chosen to live independently in ways that compromise our standing. Preston didn't look up. Tonight, we formally disassociate from you as our daughter. No one gasped. That was the strangest part. We've heard many kinds of silence, but that one carried rehearsal. My mother folded her hands. Douglas, maybe this is necessary. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I heard myself breathe like it wasn't attached to me. Are you serious? My voice sounded far away. Yes, on my birthday. This is the appropriate time. The chandelier felt too bright. The air felt thinner. I realized then the microphone wasn't for him. It was bait. For a second, I honestly thought he was waiting for applause. No one moved. My Aunt Rebecca reached for her water glass and missed it the first time. Preston's mother stared straight ahead like she was in church. The only sound was the low hum from the speakers. I pushed my chair back slowly. Disassociate. My father adjusted the microphone in his hand. Yes. You've made it clear you no longer align with this family's direction. My direction. Caroline, my mother tried again. Softer this time. Just listen. I looked at her. I've been listening my whole life. The words surprised me. They came out steady, not sharp. My father kept his voice level. You rejected a strategic relationship that would have secured long-term stability. You abandoned your position at Coastal Trust Bank. You've chosen to operate independently, without guidance. I built my own company. You built something unpredictable. A cousin across the table shifted in her seat. Someone coughed. Preston finally looked at me. Caroline, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Then what was it supposed to be? I asked him. He didn't answer. He looked at his father instead. Douglas continued. You moved downtown alone. You've removed yourself from our structure. That has consequences. I felt it then. Not anger. Something stranger. The room started to blur at the edges. The chandelier above me felt too bright, like a spotlight. My father's voice stretched, slowed. The words came through thick, like I was underwater. I gripped the edge of the table. My hands didn't look like mine. My aunt whispered, Douglas, maybe this isn't the place. This is exactly the place. My mother's fingers trembled against her napkin. We discussed doing this privately and have her twist the narrative later. That snapped something back into focus. So this is about reputation. I managed. My voice sounded distant, but it was mine again. It's about legacy. No, I said quietly. It's about control. The word hung there. My father's jaw tightened. You don't get to redefine what this family stands for, and you don't get to erase me because I won't marry your business partner's son. Gasps now. Small ones. Not dramatic. Just enough. Preston's mother leaned toward him. This is humiliating. It wasn't supposed to be public, he muttered. I turned back to my father. You planned this. He didn't deny it. You booked a private room. You had them set up audio. You invited everyone. For clarity. For witnesses. I corrected. My chest burned, but I wasn't shaking anymore. After tonight, he said firmly, you will no longer represent this family. I looked around at the table, 26 faces, some uncomfortable, some frozen, some pretending this was normal, and suddenly I understood. He thought I would shrink. He thought I would leave quietly. Douglas was still holding the microphone like it belonged to him, like it was the scepter of the kingdom he'd spent 30 years building. My chair scraped the floor when I stood up, the screech of wood on wood echoing through the silent private room. A few relatives turned toward me, then looked away, unable to meet the gaze of the woman they had just watched being erased. Douglas. My Aunt Rebecca tried again, her voice thin and brittle. Maybe let her speak. He didn't look at her. There is nothing further to clarify. There is, I heard myself say. My voice wasn't loud, but it had a weight that stopped the server from placing a salad plate 3 seats down. I walked toward him before I had time to second-guess the distance. My heels felt thunderous on the hardwood. My father didn't step back, but his jaw tightened into a jagged line. I reached out my hand. Give it to me, I said. For what purpose, Caroline? For clarity, the kind you claim to value. My father hesitated just long enough for the room to feel the shift in gravity. Then, he handed me the wireless microphone. It felt lighter than I expected, warm from his palm. I didn't turn to face him. I turned to face the 26 faces of the Hayes legacy. My father just announced that he formally disassociates from me as his daughter. I began, my voice carrying cleanly through the overhead speakers. Because I rejected a business arrangement disguised as a relationship. Because I left a stable position earning $92,000 a year. Because I chose to build something that doesn't have his name on the letterhead. No one interrupted. The air felt charged, like the moments before a summer storm in Savannah. I repaid $74,300 in student loans without asking this family for a single cent. I continued. I saw Preston's father stiffen. I built my company from a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. I pay my own rent, my own health insurance, and my own taxes. None of that embarrassed you when you were bragging about my work ethic to your colleagues last Christmas. My mother's lips parted, but she remained frozen. What embarrassed you? I said, looking directly at my father, was that I stopped asking for permission. You didn't lose a daughter tonight. Douglas, you lost a subordinate. You're being dramatic. Caroline, he snapped, crossing his arms. You're emotional. I'm calm, I replied, my tone dropping an octave. And I'm factual. You told everyone tonight that I no longer align with the family's direction, that I've undermined my own future, but you're operating on old data. I let the silence stretch, forcing them to look at me. I declined my voting shares and resigned from the board structure last year, through my attorney. I sent the formal notice to your office in November. You didn't miss it. You ignored it because you couldn't imagine a world where I didn't want what you have. My father blinked, a flicker of genuine shock breaking his mask. For clarity, I added softly, the microphone picking up every steady breath. You can't disown someone who already resigned. I already left. I handed the microphone back to his stunned, silent grip. For the first time in 30 years, the room belonged to me. The microphone was still in my hand, a heavy piece of plastic and wire that felt more like a shield than a tool. No one asked for it back. My father looked different up close, not smaller, but unsettled in a way I had never seen in 3 decades. His jaw flexed rhythmically, as if he were scanning a mental ledger, deciding which version of his authority to deploy next. "You blindsided us," he said, his voice dropping the theatrical projection of the stage and curdling into a quiet, jagged edge. "I sent the formal paperwork to your office 6 months ago." I replied. "The firm confirmed receipt. That wasn't the point." "Caroline, and you know it. It was the only point that mattered to me." A plate clinked against silverware somewhere down the long table. Despite the wreckage of the moment, the club staff began serving the first course as if this were any other Tuesday. It was almost surreal baby spinach and grilled peaches sliding onto white porcelain while the foundations of my family reorganized themselves around me. My mother finally spoke, her voice thin but steady. "Caroline, you could have discussed this with us before doing something so permanent. You are throwing away years of planning." I tried. "Mother." Every time I opened my mouth, it became a lecture on my lack of gratitude. "I stopped talking because you stopped listening. We just wanted security for you," she said, looking at the tablecloth. "I have security. I built it myself, one invoice at a time." Preston shifted in his seat, finally finding his voice, though it sounded reedy. "You didn't have to embarrass my parents like this." "Caroline, this was supposed to be a celebration of a partnership. I didn't bring the sound system. Preston, I wasn't the one who turned a birthday dinner into a public trial." That landed heavier than I intended. Preston's mother inhaled sharply, her hand flying to the pearls at her throat. My father straightened his jacket, a reflexive gesture he used before ending board meetings. "This conversation is finished," he declared. "It started because you wanted witnesses," I countered. "So, let them witness the end. You wanted clarity. Douglas. This is what it looks like when the person you're trying to control no longer needs anything from you." He stepped closer, his voice a low hiss. "You're burning bridges you'll need to cross later." I didn't burn them. I just built my own. My Aunt Rebecca reached across the table and touched my wrist. Her hand was warm and slightly shaking. "Honey, maybe just sit down. Let us all cool off for 5 minutes." I looked at her, feeling a brief flash of genuine sadness. "I'm not angry. Rebecca, I'm just done negotiating for my own life." I walked to the small podium and placed the microphone back on its stand. I didn't drop it or slam it. I set it down with the deliberate care of someone closing a book they never intended to read again. No hard feelings. I said to the room at large, "You wanted an announcement? Now you have one." I turned toward the door before the first fork could touch a grilled peach. The hallway outside the private dining room smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and polished wood, too clean for what had just happened. I pushed the door open and let it close behind me. The music from the main dining area drifted in, low and steady, like nothing inside that room mattered. "Caroline." My mother's voice followed me out. I kept walking until I reached the wide staircase near the lobby. Then I stopped. Not because she told me to, because I wanted to face her without 26 pairs of eyes watching. She approached carefully, smoothing her hair like she needed control over something. "You didn't have to humiliate your father." "He humiliated himself." "That's not fair." Neither was tonight. She glanced back toward the hallway. He felt cornered. He booked the room. He invited everyone. He ordered the microphone. That was for clarity, for control. She pressed her lips together. "You've always had a way of twisting things. I've always had a way of leaving when I'm cornered." Her eyes softened for a second. "Not agreement. Just something human." "We tried to protect you," she said quietly. "The Beaumont family would have given you stability. I don't need to marry into stability. Preston is a good man. Then he deserves someone who actually wants that life." She exhaled slowly. Your father is worried about perception. I'm not a brand extension. The front doors of the club opened and closed as members came and went. A couple walked past us, laughing about something small and ordinary. It felt strange how normal the world still was. My mother's voice lowered. If you walk away like this, don't expect things to go back. They weren't going back. She studied me for a moment, like she was trying to recognize who I'd become. You've changed. I stopped asking. For what? For approval. She didn't respond. Behind her, my father appeared at the end of the hallway. He didn't come closer. He just stood there, watching. You still have time, my mother murmured. Apologize. Say you were emotional. We can smooth this. I'm not smoothing anything. You're making this permanent. I already did. She blinked at that. I removed myself from the board. I declined my shares. I signed everything. It's done. Her face shifted. Not anger. Not sadness. Something like realization. You planned that. I prepared. My father finally stepped forward, stopping a few feet away. You're walking out on your family. I'm walking out of a room. That room is your legacy. No, I replied evenly. That room was your announcement. Silence again. Smaller this time. Not the kind that crushes. The kind that lingers. My mother reached toward me, then let her hand fall. Caroline. I adjusted the strap of my purse on my shoulder. My hands were steady now. I'm not angry. I told them both. I just don't belong to that version of this family. I turned toward the doors. The evening air outside was thick and warm, the Savannah riverfront lights reflecting off the water in the distance. No one followed me past the threshold, and this time, I didn't look back. The drive back downtown felt longer than usual. I kept the windows cracked even though it was humid. I needed air, real air, not the filtered kind from a private dining room. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone had already started lighting up. Not calls, messages. I didn't check them right away. I kicked off my heels, set my purse on the kitchen counter, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. That surprised me. The first message was from my cousin Leah. Are you okay? I typed back, I'm fine. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then came back. That was intense. I stared at that word for a second. Intense. Yeah, I replied. That's one way to describe it. The next notification came from an unknown number. This is Rebecca. I didn't want to text in the family thread. I'm proud of you. I sat down slowly. Proud of you? She'd never said that before. Another message followed almost immediately. Your father already sent an email. I opened my inbox. Subject line clarification regarding tonight. It was addressed to the entire extended family. Douglas Hayes didn't waste time. He wrote that emotions had run high, that difficult decisions are sometimes necessary for the preservation of family values, that I had chosen independence over unity. He didn't mention the microphone. He didn't mention the audience. He didn't mention the part where I said I'd already removed myself from the board. Just the narrative he could control. My phone buzzed again. Preston. I hesitated, then opened it. This didn't have to go this way. I typed slowly. It was going this way either way. He responded almost instantly. You embarrassed my parents. I declined a marriage proposal that was never a proposal. There was a pause. Then, you could have handled it privately. I set the phone down. That was the theme of the night. Private, quiet, controlled. Another message appeared. Aunt Rebecca again. Some of us are talking. This wasn't right. I leaned back against the couch. Through the window, I could see the river lights flickering in the distance. The family wasn't unified anymore. Not cleanly, not quietly. And for the first time, I wasn't inside the fracture. I was watching it from the outside. The family group chat exploded sometime after midnight. I hadn't muted it yet. That was my mistake. The first message was from Uncle Mark. Let's all take a breath. Emotions were high tonight. Then my father. There will be no further discussion. The matter is closed. Aunt Rebecca responded almost immediately. It didn't feel closed. 3 dots. Gone. Back again. My mother finally added something. Please handle this respectfully. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing anything. You scheduled my removal on my birthday. That wasn't respectful. No one answered for a full minute. Then Preston's father joined the thread. Caroline, this is not appropriate for a public forum. Neither was tonight. I replied. My cousin Leah reacted with a small heart under my message. That surprised me more than anything else. My father sent another message. You are choosing to continue this disruption. I'm responding to it. There was a pause. Then Aunt Rebecca again. Douglas, you put a microphone in front of her. What did you expect? The typing bubbles stopped completely after that. The silence in the chat felt different than the silence in the dining room. Less heavy, more uncertain. A private message came through from Leah. He didn't tell us it would be that extreme. He didn't tell me either. She sent back a single line. I think you scared him. I leaned back against the couch, phone resting on my stomach. I hadn't set out to scare anyone. I'd set out to survive it. The group chat notification popped up again. My father had changed the name of the thread. From Hayes Family to Hayes Immediate. My name disappeared from the participant list. No announcement. No explanation. Just removed. I stared at the empty space where my profile picture had been. Then I locked my phone and set it face down on the coffee table. It felt official, not dramatic. Just quiet. Monday morning arrived with the same indifferent humidity that defined Savannah in the summer. The city did not pause its pulse simply because my father had purged my name from a family group chat. I had a client call scheduled for 9 o'clock, a regional boutique hotel chain expanding its branding across coastal Georgia. It was real work, requiring real focus and resulting in real invoices. Morning. Caroline. Jason's voice crackled through my laptop speakers, sounding crisp and professional. Are you ready to walk through the revised strategy deck and the projected growth of 15%? Yes, Jason. Give me 1 second to pull up the file. I muted myself, took a long, steadying breath, and then clicked back in. We spent the next 45 minutes discussing engagement metrics, rollout timing, and quarterly growth. These were numbers that made sense effort that carried tangible weight. When we finished, Jason added, his tone shifting to something almost too casual. I heard you had quite the eventful family dinner this past weekend. That caught me off guard. Word travels fast. It is Savannah, he said lightly, though I could hear the underlying curiosity. Everything travels fast here, especially when a microphone is involved. I am fine. Jason, I figured. You sounded more than fine during the presentation. After the call ended, I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop. I did sound fine. Better than fine? I sounded free. Around noon, my phone buzzed again. It was not a text message this time, but a voicemail from Douglas Hayes. I let it sit for a full minute, watching the notification pulse, before finally pressing play. Caroline. His voice was steady, filtered through his practiced boardroom persona. This situation is escalating unnecessarily. Some of the board members have reached out with questions regarding the stability of our leadership. I would appreciate it if you refrained from any further public commentary. I almost laughed aloud to the empty room. Public commentary. I hadn't said a word to anyone outside that dining room. The message continued. If you choose to maintain this distance, I suggest you do so quietly. We have a reputation to protect. He ended the recording without a goodbye. I did not call him back. Instead, I opened my email to find 3 new messages from extended relatives. Aunt Rebecca wrote, Your father called me this morning. He is terrified of the perception this has created among the Beaumonts. I typed back a short response. "He always is." She replied almost instantly. "Are you okay?" I looked around my apartment at the half-finished coffee, the open laptop, and the stack of contracts representing my own success. I am. By that evening, the noise had settled into something rearranged rather than resolved. My father was desperately managing optics. I was managing my life. And for the first time in 30 years, those two things were no longer the same. A week later, the city felt the same. The river still moved at its own pace. Boats came and went. The air stayed heavy in the evenings. Nothing dramatic shifted outside my apartment. Inside, things were quieter. My phone didn't light up as often. The Hayes immediate group thread no longer existed on my screen. My father hadn't called again. My mother sent one short message 2 days ago. "We hope you're well." I typed back. "I am," that was it. Aunt Rebecca stopped by earlier in the week. She didn't come in, just stood by the door, holding a small white bakery box. "I won't stay," she said. "I just wanted you to have this." Inside was a slice of birthday cake. "Thank you." She hesitated. "It wasn't right. The way it happened." "I know." She nodded, like that was enough. Then she left. Tonight, I'm standing on my balcony overlooking the Savannah riverfront. The lights ripple across the water. I'm barefoot. There's a mug of tea cooling in my hand. For years, I thought independence would feel louder, triumphant, defiant, something sharp. It doesn't. It feels steady. Caroline Hayes used to measure herself against approval, against expectations, against whether she fit inside a room built by someone else. Now I measure myself differently. I built my own company. I paid my own debt. I removed myself from a board before they could remove me from their narrative. I walked out without yelling, without collapsing, without apologizing for existing outside their structure. That's new for me. My father announced my removal like it was a corporate resolution. Formal. Final. But what he didn't understand is that I had already left in the ways that mattered. I didn't lose a family that night. I stepped out of a version of myself that kept waiting to be chosen. The river keeps moving below me. It doesn't rush. It doesn't stop. I take a slow breath and set my phone down on the small patio table. Notifications muted. Group chats gone. No need to check. This story isn't loud anymore. It's just mine. And for Caroline Hayes. That's enough. We'll step back here and leave her in that quiet. If you want to stay with stories like this one, you know where to find us.